Hi everyone, welcome. I'm just going to give it a few moments just to let people get in before we really get started. To those of you that have joined us so promptly, thanks so much for being here. It's good to have you all on the call. So as I say, I'm just going to give it a few moments just to let the last few people join the call, and then we'll get going. Okay, I think that is time. So to those I haven't already said hello to, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us on the first of our day in the life of webinars that we're hosting as OneTrust partners. Today we're going to focus on cookie management and some of the things to consider when implementing a robust cookie compliance solution. I have to say I really am excited to share some of the insight that we've taken from our experience here, having recently implemented the OneTrust cookie compliance module for the 500th time. Before we get into it, I'll just give you a really short overview of who will be talking to you on today's webinar and a really short introduction to who we are as the Data Privacy Group. So without further ado, let me introduce myself. My name is Ian Borner. I'm the Professional Services Director here at the Data Privacy Group. I lead our professional services and client delivery teams. I myself have experience in delivering privacy compliance programs across multiple jurisdictions for large multinational organizations. I'm based here in the UK, just north of London, but I have a diverse client base that crosses jurisdiction, geography, and market sector. I'm leading the technical conversation today. Alongside me is Genevieve Braund. Genevieve heads up our enterprise client delivery team and manages privacy offices for clients based in 94 different countries. I have to say, we really are fortunate to have Genevieve on our team, and certainly lucky to have her on the call today. Jen's one of very few OneTrust Fellows of Privacy Technology, and this means that she has passed all of the OneTrust expert accreditations and has a privacy office management experience to go alongside her accreditation badges. So now just a little bit about the Data Privacy Group. We're headquartered here in the UK, as I said, just north of London, but we've got clients spanning 94 different countries. And as a OneTrust partner, we've enabled global FTSE and Fortune companies to untangle privacy regulations and manage their ongoing risks with transparency and trust. We address immediate privacy challenges, industry benchmarking, and aim to operationalise data privacy programs for our clients. We've delivered privacy programs in 28 different languages. We've had a focus on the GDPR, the CCPA, and LGPD. As I said before, we're OneTrust partners. We've built all of our solutions on top of the OneTrust platform, and that really was by design. This allows us to deliver the most powerful, all-encompassing privacy software to our clients and layer on specific workflows and management structures to drive maturity in each of our clients' privacy programs. Coupled with this, we work with globally recognized law firms to ensure that all of our workflows meet the requirements of the different regulations across the globe that we need to work to. And we're also really proud to be a member of the IAPP. And with that, we're able to ensure that all of our team are across the data privacy news, key events as they happen. And we're driving towards having all of our employees accredited with IAPP certifications. So this is CIPP, CIPM, CIPT, and so on. Before I pass over to Genevieve, I just want to set the scene from a cookie perspective. So regulations around the use of cookies can be a constant moving target for companies. The e-privacy directive, for example, is in its 6th generation and is soon going to change again. Our mantra as a business is that compliance is only ever a point in time. It really is easy to fall out of compliance when negotiating various regions, each with their different nuances. And this presents companies with a problem. On one side, you have your customers, your website visitors, who, with the introduction of more and more privacy laws, are becoming increasingly savvy, and we're finding less willing to hand over their personal data to companies. And then on the other side, you have your marketing teams who want to capture every piece of data possible to track and understand website journeys and customer behavior to improve the products and services that you sell as a company. So there's been a huge shift in people's expectations for companies to be trustworthy and transparent, and how they're using personal data. So a lack of trust and transparency really does have the ability to impact a brand's reputation. The problem is, however, without this vital data, it's difficult to further understand your customers' changing habits. We understand that favouring one or the other can tip the balance. So the solution we want to talk to you today covers both sides, your customers and your marketing abilities or capabilities. By taking consumer rights into consideration whilst adapting behaviours of the banners to encourage dropping of cookies and tracking technologies, we've seen up to 49% increase in website visitors' allowance of cookies to be dropped on their devices. By testing users' interaction with banners and preference centers across various industries and from different parts of the world, we use the OneTrust cookie compliance module to enable businesses to gather the data they need whilst remaining compliant with these laws, and at the same time instilling trust with their current and future customers. So to dig a little deeper into this, I'm going to pass you over to Jen now, who will explain the things to consider when implementing a robust cookie management solution, and ultimately how that translates into the use of OneTrust cookie compliance module. So over to you, Jen.
Thanks, Ian. So as we all know, data privacy is a multifaceted world, which covers aspects which are both internally facing and externally facing. Cookie compliance is prominently public facing, and with the majority of business being handled through company websites, the handling of cookie consent is akin to a handshake in the face-to-face world. In other words, it's one of the first impressions a company makes on a consumer. And so it's something that companies really can't afford to get wrong, both from a financial perspective and also from that of brand reputation. So when we look at cookie compliance solutions, we think about 4 key areas which are integral to not only ensuring that you are compliant, but also making sure that compliance works for you. In other words, when employing a cookie compliance solution, we want to ensure that you're not risking data insights, which are so critical to business innovation and development. So it's all about that balance, which Ian touched on a moment ago. The first of these ingredients for success is geography. And a really common misconception about cookie compliance is that it is dependent upon where a company is based, and that's simply not true. In fact, cookie compliance depends upon the jurisdiction from which a user is browsing. And that makes things very complicated. It means that if your customer base is global, your cookie compliance solution must be as well. Geolocation rules configured in OneTrust allow us to deploy the relevant consent model for each jurisdiction to ensure that key global compliance that we are searching for. So the relevant behavior will show dependent upon where the user is browsing, thanks to that geolocation rule functionality. The second ingredient is the cookies themselves. And while a cookie consent banner is really important, we also need to make sure that the cookies are dropped and blocked in accordance with those all-important geolocation rules. We also need to ensure that those are blocked and dropped in accordance with the consumer preferences. So in order to ensure that the preference center works as it should, the cookies need to be categorized properly in OneTrust. This enables the cookies to effectively follow the instructions. So, for example, if I consent to targeting cookies, but not social media cookies, we need to ensure that that functionality flows throughout. The third ingredient for a successful cookie compliance solution is UX. And we're really firm believers that trade-offs don't need to be made between a robust functioning cookie compliance solution and a seamless brand image. In fact, ensuring that everything from the cookie banner to the cookie list and the cookie settings button are all branded appropriately is going to show customers and potential customers that at your organisation, privacy is more than just a tick box, but rather is fully integrated into the design of the business. This shows that you value your customers and put their trust at the heart of your business. And I believe that to be a real strategic differentiator in a market where consumers are increasingly aware of their rights as data subjects. So the final factor in a cookie compliance solution, which balances business needs and user rights, is data insights. The impact of traditional cookie compliance solutions, which haven't been implemented with a balanced approach to compliance, can cause up to a 50% drop in tracking capabilities because users just opt out at the first chance they get. And I have a history in marketing. If there are any marketers listening today, then that would cause immense panic in your department, I am sure, and I can relate very much to that. And because of this, it's really important to take some additional steps to create custom behaviours so that we're always encouraging users to opt in, whilst of course championing their rights. So these behaviours, combined with granular geolocation rules, enable companies to become globally compliant without excessively risking their valuable data, which is collected by cookies. And that speaks to this fourth point about making compliance work for you.
Okay, so how do we take all of these different ingredients for success and put them together into one robust information governance program? Well, I'm now going to go ahead and do a little bit of a live demonstration within the OneTrust tool just to give you an introduction to what you can expect to see from that. So when we first log into the OneTrust tool, we are brought to this homepage, My Apps. And as you can see, there are lots and lots of different modules in OneTrust which are going to enable us to take control of all of those different areas of privacy that we touched on earlier. So everything from data subject requests, policy and notice management, and of course the main module that we're interested in today, which is cookie compliance. So I'm just entering the module now. And it may seem really obvious, but one of the first steps in implementing a compliant cookie solution is to ensure that you understand which cookies are being dropped on your website. And you'd actually be surprised at how many companies just don't know which cookies are being dropped on their website and how many of them. So the first thing that we'll go ahead and do is we'll add our website to scan. And this scanning tool is going to allow us to have that insight in terms of which cookies are being dropped on our website. So I'll just go ahead and start scan. Okay, so when the cookies scans take place, the OneTrust tool actually automatically categorizes some of them through their big cookie database, which is Cookiepedia. So as you can see here, in the most recent scan for the dataprivacygroup.com, we've got cookies of various different categories. Now these categories are actually really important because these are going to allow us to have control over the cookies that are being blocked and dropped on our device. So if we go into the preference center on a cookie solution, you can see that these are the different categories here, and that's how they link up to the OneTrust tool. Now, you may have noticed that we've got some cookies that have come back as unknown, so that means that they haven't been able to be recategorized automatically by the Cookiepedia database, and so we'll need to go ahead and manually recategorize those cookies. So in order to do that, I'm just going to apply a filter. To show the unknown cookies. And as you can see here, we've got a list of all of the unknowns for the dataprivacygroup.com. And I'll now go ahead and if I've got the insight in terms of what which categories, these cookies should be included in, then I can go ahead and make the relevant changes. If not, then I might go and liaise with my web development team in order to be able to do this. So when I've got the insight I need, I can just go down the list here and check off the ones that I'm ready to categorise, recategorise up here and categorise them accordingly. And then I would click categorise again. Now, once those different things are done, we can actually go ahead and start thinking about the core functionality of our cookie compliance solution. And as I mentioned previously, OneTrust enables us to deploy a really globally compliant cookie consent solution thanks to these geolocation rules here. So as you can see, I've created a few different tests here, but if I just go into my rules, I can show you here that we can actually go ahead and add different rules. And we can assign different rules to different regions. So for example, the EU, I might put the United States. I'll go with United Kingdom for now. And we can actually also customize some of our behaviors as well. Once I've set up the relevant rules, I can then assign them to my domains, just here. And now that will all be configured for me. Again, as I mentioned previously, UX is really a big part of a cookie compliance solution in my opinion. We really want to make sure that the cookie compliance solution is seamlessly integrated into the design of the website so as not to detract from the website itself and from our branding guidelines. So these templates are going to allow us to create branded templates for our cookie consent solution. So for example, just here, as you can see, the banner is in line with our company brand guidelines. But we can also create different templates in accordance with the different geolocation rules. So I'm actually going to go ahead and show you the opt-in template just here. And what we typically do for opt-in is we require this banner interaction here. So if we turn that on, if I go back to our website again, I'm actually browsing from the UK, which is why I'm receiving this opt-in consent model. And I'm actually not able to interact with the website behind the banner until I've first made a decision regarding my cookies. And that might seem counterintuitive to some, but because in an opt-in region I actually can't drop any cookies on someone's device other than strictly necessary before they set their preferences, then in forcing somebody to make a decision, we're not sitting in consent limbo. And more often than not, people will just go ahead and accept all, because let's face it, we're all looking for the fastest route possible to view the website. Okay. So once we've configured the different templates and we're happy with the customized behavior for each geolocation rule, we'll now go ahead to the scripts section of the module. And in OneTrust, we're actually given two sets of scripts. First, we've got test scripts, and these can be tested in a sandboxed environment, meaning that if you make any tests and you need to make any changes, so for example to the branding, to the geolocation rules, etc., then you've not obviously gone live with your changes. Once you are happy with everything, you can then go into production mode and you replace your test scripts with these ones here, which are the production scripts. And these are actually unique to the top level domain that we've included. And because of that, including this top level domain rather than the subdomain, so www. We're actually ensuring that we have cross-domain consent. So as I click between different pages on the website, the banner isn't going to continue to reappear. And again, that really comes down to UX once again. So once you've implemented your scripts and you're happy with everything on the website in terms of cookies being dropped and blocked as they need to, The next stage is really just a phase of maintenance. So, as I mentioned before, the cookie environment is constantly changing, whether it be that your website development team are adding new cookies to be dropped, whether it be that some of the regulations maybe have changed in your region. We can make any of those different changes in the background, and these scripts are always going to stay relevant. So for example, I could go ahead, add another geolocation rule. I could make changes to an existing geolocation rule. I could recategorize any new cookies as needed, and I could even go ahead and change the templates in accordance with perhaps a brand refresh. Now, any of those changes that I make, all I need to do to make sure that they're reflected in the scripts that are existing on the website is just to go ahead and republish the scripts. And effectively that's kind of like clicking save on a Word document, and it makes sure that all of those changes are pushed right through to the live site. So I think that really demonstrates the beauty of OneTrust, just in terms of enabling you to have a very much centralised solution in terms of keeping an eye on your global compliance, keeping an eye on brand guidelines, keeping an eye on the banners, etc., etc. So having that central control and having a system which is really robust in that sense, but also flexible enough to evolve as regulations change as well. So that's the end of the demonstration in OneTrust. I think now would be a really good time, Ian, if we go to move on to any questions that people might have.
Thanks for that insight into the world of OneTrust, Jen. I think it gave those on the webinar who haven't seen inside the platform a good glimpse at its power and its functionality, and of course that those that have seen and used OneTrust, maybe a snippet of something they can take away and use in their implementation. And as I say, I think it's probably a good time that we switch over and start talking about questions. I've been monitoring the questions coming in, and we've had quite a few. So I'm going to pick half a dozen or so, and those that we don't have time for, I'll make sure that we follow up with each person individually over the next few days. So I'm going to start off with one that we've had quite a few times in the past. We implemented a cookie compliance solution last year and saw a 35% drop in our analytics. What is different about this solution, and how do we overcome this issue?
That's a really interesting question, and it's actually something that we have seen quite frequently with clients who have implemented traditional cookie compliance solutions which don't take into consideration the absolute necessity to find a balance between, yes, being compliant, adhering to different jurisdictions, but also making sure that you're not compromising those crucial data insights which help us drive business innovation. And in order to overcome this, it's really about making sure that we are optimizing not only our geolocation rules, but also the custom behavior for each of those. So it comes back to those custom behavior templates that I spoke about in the demonstration. So really what I would recommend is reviewing your current geolocation rules infrastructure and identifying the different behaviours that you can implement for each of those geolocation rules, so that you're always encouraging consumers to accept all, or to at least interact with the banner so you're not stuck in consent limbo. And through our implementation of these different customised geolocation rules, we've really noticed that clients have seen a dramatic increase into their data insights, and actually a return to almost the same level of insights that they were receiving prior to having a cookie compliance solution at all. So it's definitely worth investing some time into. And of course, if you do need any guidance in terms of finding those optimised behaviours, you can of course get in touch with us at the Data Privacy Group.
Good answer there, Jen. Thanks very much. So I'm going to move on to the next one. What happens if the cookie regulations change?
So this really goes back to what we've said throughout today's webinar, and that's that privacy is an ever-evolving landscape. And so, of course, we do expect for cookie regulations to change in the upcoming months and years, of course. And, you know, the beauty of OneTrust is that if cookie regulations do change, all we have to go ahead and do is configure the geolocation rules accordingly. So it might be that we need to
add a new rule in. It might be that we need to swap some of the countries around within those rules. But any changes that we do need to make, we can do it right in the back end in OneTrust. All we have to do is go ahead and republish our scripts, and the changes will be reflected on our website. So there's no interaction required with your web development team. And as I've said before, I'll say it again, this is the real beauty of OneTrust, you know, being able to make those changes in the back end and seeing almost immediate changes in the front end is really what makes this platform so useful.
Yeah, I think I'd echo that as well, Jen. The flexibility that you get from OneTrust is amazing, and probably will add there that not only sort of regulations changing, but as companies change their branding or anything like that, we can affect those changes, as Jen says, in the back end, republish the scripts, and there's no interaction needed from web development teams and other teams within the business that generally would handle coding. So I'm going to move on to the next question, and it's focusing on the do not sell conundrum in California. So the question is, we have a debate in-house and do not understand how to handle do not sell in California and how this relates to cookies. Can you give any insight?
This is actually something that we as a team can relate to at the moment. It's been a bit of a hot topic amongst clients recently because in traditional cookie compliance solutions, the do not sell request has actually been handled within the cookie preference center itself. And what this has meant is that visitors browsing from California, in clicking do not sell in the preference center, they've actually turned all cookies off apart from those that are strictly necessary. So there's been an enormous drop in the data insights we're able to gather in California. And having said that, it's really important to remember you might be a company that's headquartered in the UK, but remember that your customer base is global. So you probably will be having some customers browse your website from California, and they will still need to see that CCPA solution. And it's based upon their location rather than yours. That's something that you really do need to remember. So in practice, how do we overcome this challenge? Well, we've actually, as I say, we've dealt with this recently, and we've implemented a completely different solution specifically for California. So if I just go into my browser now, I can actually go ahead and share the solution that we've created for one of our clients, Q Associates. Q Associates really value their consumers' trust, and so they make a really big effort in terms of making sure that they prioritise privacy as a strategic differentiator. And it shows the way that we've implemented this cookie solution. So as you can see here, when we go into the cookie settings preference center, as I say, we are browsing from California at the moment. I'll just double check that on VPN. Yeah, that's right. So if I go into the cookie settings preference center, we can see that there's no option to handle the do not sell request here. Previously, there would have been an option just here saying do not sell, and if I'd have clicked that, it would have turned all of these cookies off. So instead, to handle the request, we've actually implemented a do not sell my personal data link. This links through to a web form for the visitor to fill out, and they can select the relevant request type. Obviously, in this case, it would be do not sell. And this functionality is again implemented through OneTrust. Upon receiving this request, Q Associates would be notified and they would be able to handle it accordingly, again, through the power of OneTrust. So that's what we would recommend in terms of implementing a solution to handle the do not sell.
No, I think that says it all. Thanks, Jen. And yeah, good. Once again, a good answer. So the next question's come in. It's actually come in a few times from different people asking about tag managers. This one in particular is talking about Adobe launch, but obviously there's Insight and Google Tag Managers, one we come across all the time. Can you talk about how OneTrust integrates with tag managers and how you can use a cookie compliance solution within in an environment where you're using a tag manager?
Absolutely, yeah. So of course, tag managers are great tools. Particularly if you're in web development, you'll understand the advantages of using them. But in using a tag manager, it means that we need to take a couple of additional steps just to make sure that the core functionality is there in terms of making sure that cookies are dropping or being suppressed in accordance with those all-important geolocation rules. And it's actually really easy to make sure that those are configured correctly. So in the case of Adobe Launch and GTM, all we would need to go ahead and do is import the OneTrust container, which enables us to upload some triggers, so a trigger to fire the cookies and a trigger to suppress the cookies. And we would just need to apply those triggers to each of the different cookies. And through the Preference Center, it will then talk to the tag manager and make the relevant instructions so that those tags fire or don't fire accordingly. So of course it does add an additional slightly manual step, but again, once those configurations are made, they'll only need to be repeated if any additional cookies are being dropped, etc.
Yeah, very, very good. So I think we've probably got time for one more question, and again, it's a sort of a relatively common theme that I'm seeing in the questions, and I know that it's an issue that's come across from a lot of our clients that use products and tools that have dropped third-party cookies. In this example, we're focused on Shopify. So the question is, we use Shopify on our site and struggle to control the third-party cookies. Can you help with the solution here?
Yeah, so as you said, Ian, it can be a little bit of a challenge trying to control these various different things, but what we can actually do, obviously we can't control them within GTM itself, but we can work around that by actually making some changes within the website source code. And what we would just do is implement what we call a JavaScript rewrite, and that will enable us to, again, implement, I call it the relevant instructions, so that the cookie is dropping or being suppressed in accordance with the user's preferences. So it definitely does, again, add a little bit of an obstacle, but with the right knowledge, it's very easy to overcome.
That's great. Thanks, Jen. I think we're probably at a point where we can finish the call. As I said before, any questions that have come through that we haven't had the opportunity to answer, I apologise, but we will make sure that we follow up with everyone individually and make sure you get the answers to those questions. So I'll thank everyone for their questions. I think they've been really insightful and hopefully given people some insight to sort of the extended functionality within the tool. On behalf of myself and Jen, I'd like to thank everyone for joining the call today. I, for one, have really enjoyed it. I hope Jen has as well. If anyone wants to connect with either myself, Jen, or anyone from the Data Privacy Group, please feel free to link with us on LinkedIn or search on any of the social platforms for the Data Privacy Group. We'd be happy to pick up a conversation with anyone. But for now, thanks very much, and look forward to talking to you again soon.